Thank you so much for being here. In the next 45 minutes, we hope to have as we were already announced, a honest conversation about queer perspective in games. And without further ado, I want to quickly introduce our three lovely speakers to you. On the very right for you, we have Dr. Rico Norwood. The pronouns are they, them, and they are a creative producer at Tales and also do a lot of research in video games. Then in the middle, we have Matthias Riemensperger, pronouns he, him. And Matthias is a co-CEO and co-founder of 4BPM, a game studio working on their first game, Portal to the Cosmobeat, and also technical animator of the team. And then to my left, we have Shelley Graf, pronouns she, her. And Shelley did freelance tech art work for over 10 years and now has founded Witchmade, a studio making games and doing client work. Yes, so please give a warm applause for our speakers. We're very happy to have them. Thank you. Okay, then let's jump right into this. Our first question is a little bit on your background. What motivated you to go into the games industry? And I'll just start on the very right with Rico.
That's why I said all the way over here, so I was like, somebody else can start. Wow, backfired. I kind of accidentally stumbled into the video game industry. I'm very video game industry adjacent, but like literally I've been born into like video games since my younger years. Literally my mama can tell you about me hooking up the PlayStation 2 to the big screen and going out on Fridays in Vice City when like I was in high school doing this, so yeah. But I applied for a job that I thought was a writing job. I was in the midst of doing my PhD still, living in London. It was a narrative job, and so if you ever do a doctoral degree, please don't ever do a doctoral degree, it's hell. I was writing about video games to escape kind of like what I was focusing on, and then so they read some of the work that I was writing about video games, and I didn't know they were making a video game, and they're like, oh, we're making a video game. And I was like, oh shit, like, okay. And I've been here for like 3 years ever since working with them as a researcher and a producer on the video game that they've been making as well. So like I kind of like stumbled in accidentally, but like I've been playing video games my entire, like I bring my Nintendo Switch into Berkheim every time I go in there to just like take breaks and play on the dance floor. But it's been something that's like been in my blood for like eons since I've been alive. So I'm quite happy that I stumbled into it, but that's how I got into it basically.
Yeah, let's just continue this way.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like it's a little more simple. I grew up playing video games, and I feel like I'm still so young that like growing up, that was when things started becoming more accessible, and I got into 3D animation super early. At age 10, I started like making my own 3D animations, and I just knew that really that's what I want to do for like as a job. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
I like too many things. No, I started with programming, and then I realized that games are this intersection of all of these other cool things, like music and art and animation and like so many other social topics and all of these things that come on top of that. And I just kind of, I like too many things, and games is like the overlap of the most things that I like, so that's where I ended up in slowly over time.
Thank you very much. I will just turn the thing around and let you, Shelley, answer the next question first. Because you're all working in games and making games, does your queer identity influence your creative or developmental process? And if yes, how?
I am a queer person, and my perspective is kind of inextricably linked with the work that I do. I've been very lucky that it hasn't influenced it, like in terms of working with other people too much. I've been quite privileged in that regard, but the work that I output is just by nature of being made by me very queer in a lot of different places. So that's kind of like where most of that influence kind of goes in.
Yeah, I feel like for me it's kind of similar. It's like me and the 3 other people who I founded with, we're all queer, and that just really shapes the way that we see the world, and that's also just reflected in the projects that we make. So even when we tell stories that aren't like explicitly about like being queer, it's still a queer story because we're telling it from our perspectives.
Yeah, I think it's like the same for like all of us as well too. My black identity and my queer identity are something that are inescapable from the experiences that I have in life, and so they feed into the work that I create as well too. Whether it be like lectures that we craft, or writing that we do, or even when it comes to when we do the playback sessions and giving feedback on the game and stuff like that as well too. It's part of me. Like I don't think there's anything that could ever like separate those kind of like identities from me as a person as well too.
I think in terms of like more work structure stuff, I feel like because of it, like as a queer person, you're very much forced to think about how you interact with other people and what other people are kind of going through at all times. And I've noticed that I'm very often one of the first people to like call out if something goes wrong, or if there's like anybody who's been treated badly in a team. Oh, hello. And that's kind of been like, I feel like queer people in big teams especially seem to be always the first ones to make sure that the team themselves is healthy, just because we all know what it's kind of like to go through, being like someone else, someone outside, someone other. Like that's like a practical implication as well.
Due to the current state of everything, of course, we have to talk a little bit about difficult topics as well. But don't worry, we will also go more into more positive topics. But currently, the industry is in a difficult state. We've talked about layoffs already. We've talked about diversity numbers already. And also we have specifically for games, working on games, the censorship issue, mostly stemming from the US, where payment processors think that pornographic games, and obviously queer games as well, deserve to be censored. How does it feel to be developing a game with queer themes or as a queer team in these times? And also, as a little follow-up, do you feel a difference between our situation here in Germany and like the international situation, or do you feel it's very similar because our markets are US focused? Very long question, and I'll start with Matthias first this time.
Oh, me, okay. So I think it's like interesting to think about for us and our team. Whenever we're like talking about some new thing happening in our story or just something that we want to implement, it's like, oh, that's gonna land us on one of those lists on Steam that rate the game based on like how woke is it, and it's it's so ridiculous because it feels like you're putting a target on your own head for no reason. Because it's like those stupid lists, like they rated based on how woke it is, but it's like it's never about any ideology anyway. It's just about, are queer people featured? Do women exist in this universe? And it's like, yeah, that's very like, that just kind of reflects like the way that, you know, how I have experienced like oppression. It's like when I'm being discriminated against, it's never because of what I actually think, it's just because of how I present or how people like, you know, see me, and that's, yeah, that really sucks. But I do have to say I'm not like very sure about the, you know, Europe versus USA thing. I feel like it's, since both is like a Western market, I feel like those struggles are the same kind of for both. So yeah, it feels like there's a long way to go with that.
I've been thinking about this question because we got like the questions before. So I thought about this for much longer than the other ones, and I kind of came to that point where, like, my existence is already too loud for them, right? Like it doesn't matter what I say or what I do. I'm already like persona non grata. I can go fuck myself for all they care. So they like, if that's already the case, I might as well just do whatever. Like if I scream louder, it won't change anything for them, but it will change something for another queer person. Like if I make something that's more queer, more visible, I'll find my audience. People want queer stories, and we have more options now than ever, getting those directly to the people that need them. So it's like, it's kind of like had the opposite effect on me, where I'm like, I want to be more queer. I want to be more loud. I think that's kind of the better takeaway to me. But I obviously haven't published anything yet. I have not been on those stores. I've mostly been working B2B. So it's been like a, I'm gonna get to that point, and then probably I'm gonna have to change my mind.
I will say that, I mean, America being this kind of like imperialistic like entity, it feeds into a lot of the work that's always created as well too, and that work also feeds back on like how people are feeling about the times. You can see it in any other medium, whether it be like movies or like cinema, I mean, or music and stuff like that too. And I do see bolder conversations happening in the indie game circuit versus like the mainstream one or the AAA one as well too. It's particularly in Europe as well, where the state kind of like recognizes games and the fundamental monetary value, but also cultural value that it brings to the state. In America, only really recognize games when it's like Fortnite or something like that. So it's difficult for people who make games in that kind of like American sphere who have that kind of like bold take to make it to the top or not even make it to the top, to even make it to a place where they can create something, because, like they just released a trailer for the new God of War spinoff, and it's a female protagonist for the thing, and people have lost their shit. Like they've lost their minds on the internet about this. But it's like, that's like, wow, that's bold. Like, wow, like, that really makes them just go crazy. And I think that's like also something that is like, well, if you look at the indie games over here, like it's beyond just having a woman in the center stage. Like there's trans people in the center. Like there's so much other stuff also happening in this indie game scene. So like I think that harkens on like the two differences between the European one and the American one, because like Europe supports in a way this kind of like legitimacy of the video game industry in the indie video game industry particularly. So I think that makes like a big difference as well.
I think it's not just that, like that's a very specific difference between like AAA and indie, but like you get support for indie games that are queer here, whilst you wouldn't get support for indie games that are queer over there. Like we're following them. We're gonna get there if we're not careful, but we still have support and protections now, and from a distribution standpoint, it's like the direct to audience stuff. That's the stuff that gets into people's hands right now. Like queer and AAA is just, it's not really happening. You'll get shut down. It will not get produced. And if it does get produced, it's going to be something like, oh, it's a female protagonist. Wow, oh my God, that's so much work that you've put in there. And it's this like, it's a statement still. And it's very sad that it's a statement. But in indie games, you have support here, and you do absolutely have like appetite there. Like you will sell this kind of stuff if you get it into the right people. And they're looking. The audience for queer games is bigger than ever.
I will say it's a kind of thing that's reminiscent of the Red Scare in cinemas back at home, where it's like, they used to code queerness into scripts to get away from like this kind of like being blamed as like, because like they conflated communism with queer. Wow, whatever. They did that like back in the like 40s, but there's some times in these games back at home as well too. I can think of like Kingdom Come, I think that's the title of it, where they sneak in like queer characters as well too. So I kind of also see that kind of happening in some of these like AA, AAA games where it's not overtly queer, but it's covertly queer in ways. And I do think that is also this kind of like maneuver that some of these people do to get these kind of stories in there, but it's still not enough as well too. I mean, you shouldn't have to like sneak people into being educated about the world. I mean, we still have to in many ways, but I think like what you said is well true. The funding that ties to it as well dictates a lot what can be made, and like particularly like back at home, they've scratched so much funding that's dedicated to women, dedicated to black folks, dedicated to queer folks. So people are even scared to even put that on application because they'll just write it off right away as well too. But yeah, no, it's very true.
Thank you for your insights. It was really lovely listening to you. I think it's very funny that queerness was associated with the Red Scare as well. And looking at the womenized color, I think we're very fitting here. Yeah, and kind of as a follow-up to current political influences, being a bit tough, let's say it that way. How are you balancing the business aspect of having to sell your game and having to make a product with your creative vision and also being queer and that influencing your creative vision? And I said I would call on someone. And
I can go.
Shelley again, yeah.
I have made B2B products, and I've been very fortunate that I don't have to think about it too much. I've been telling people off all my life, and I somehow have gotten through with it. So do not take any advice from me. There's a CEO of a big German car brand out there who still hates me for telling him off in a board meeting. It was very fun. Yes. Can recommend. Yes.
Yeah, we can clap for that, maybe. Yeah.
They did actually make changes. He must have made an impact.
I feel like for me, that kind of question is definitely from like a pitching kind of perspective. Like for me, I've always been responsible for like pitching our projects to publishers, and it's like there's this constant like juggling of like how much do I reveal. It's because, like I mentioned, our team is fully queer, right? So for every single time I have a meeting, I'll be like, okay, wait, let me check. So is there like any like indication? Does this publisher, are they like queer friendly? Are they not? What do I say? Do I say that we're a fully queer team, or do I like say it's a team of so many different backgrounds? Like, and it's like, yeah, that's like a very, you have to be constantly like, even during any meeting, it's like I'll be like checking like how they're responding, and this like constant like super hyper awareness of like how are they perceiving my queerness right now and our team's queerness right now. That's difficult.
Well, I'm quite fortunate that selling a game isn't my job in the company as well, too, because I suck at selling stuff. But at the same time, we're also quite fortunate as well because we exist as a nonprofit entity. So therefore, like, we get funding from a foundation to produce our game, and therefore it frees us from like these kind of like things of needing to parlay with people to get grants or get money for it as well too. And it actually frees us up for like a lot of decisions and making the mechanics. Like we don't center around making sure the game gets sold or something like that. Like those conversations don't really come up with us. It's more about the experience that we're creating, and that it's true to kind of like the ethos of all the parties that kind of have poured into it as well. So thank God I ain't got to sell shit to people. Like, no, I'll crash and burn if I have to do that. No. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that on ours, at least. We're very lucky, though, very fortunate about it.
I think if you are selling, you basically only really have two ways you can go. It's either you market directly to other queer people, because there is a lot of support out there. You can like via something like Patreon or Ko-fi, Kickstarter. If you get the money directly from your audience, you're much more free to express that, or you skirt around it. Like if you have to go through a publisher, every single one of them, this is a risk. Like unless there is a publisher that's very clearly just there to publish queer games, sadly we have kind of like Annapurna has done a thing, so it's not really a thing anymore right now. I don't know if anyone that's very specifically looking out for those kinds of games. All of the other ones want risk management of you. So you going in there and being like, hey, I know how to make our social media look good so that we don't get doxxed immediately is probably the only other choice you have right now. So that's a tightrope walk.
Yeah, it's like once again, it feels like putting a target on your head. It's because it's for me also, when we first decided that I was going to be responsible for pitching and everything, it was mostly the decision mostly came from like, okay, I'm interested in doing it. It also feels like my skill set aligns with it, but everybody else in our team, it's funny because everybody else is like either female or genderqueer, or like we're a super diverse team. And after that, we kind of looked at each other and it's like, yeah, of course, it ended up being the white cis man who's going to be presenting, you know? But that's really only like slightly funny because there's like so much truth to that. And it's maybe it is the case that all of us like subconsciously kind of gravitate towards like, okay, what's most socially acceptable right now? Like who's most likely to have a chance of like being heard and listened to, so. Yeah.
After talking about like the business side and about pitching as well, and like how to get money, let's talk a little bit about the audience. Do you feel like the audience and the perception of queer games by the audience and by the public has changed over the years? And I'll throw this one to Kenneth first. Rico, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like things have changed over the years in terms of like how audiences are reacting to media in general, and then it's also changing much more in how audiences are reacting to queer games or overtly queer games as well too. I see that a lot of discourse online can be very split as well, but online discourse, I will warn people always to take it with a grain of salt, because like, I mean, it's not a true litmus test on how people are receiving these games in like everyday life as well too. I mean, you also have to account for these kind of like grifting communities of people who are like agents of chaos, who just go into these forums and then create chaos for like anything that they may diverge away like from heteronormativity when it's created as well. And I do see the discourse is changing because people are kind of seeing a little bit through these kind of like same tactics of, like, you said the whole thing of like the woke game thing too, right? And it is to their detriment that they bastardize a word that black folk came up with back at home to make you self-aware of like one's place in the system. And it literally also helped them, but they bastardized it and made it as like a kind of like witch hunt word. But now it's like also like, oh, they're calling the game woke. Now I know this game actually might be good because they're just like writing it off. Like, it's so, like the same thing with the God of War one. Like, they're just going like woke, woke, woke because like a woman is, they called 007, the new one, woke or something like that. Because I think like he spoke to a woman in it and like slept with her, and then like I saved her after or something. It was like a very, very small like plot line of it. And the community, at least the one, and I know we live in a sphere on like online, but the community is like, oh, this is BS. Like it's 007. I mean, like, and it's 007 too. Like, what the fuck? Like, but it's also kind of firing back on them because this witch hunt word is easily seen through, especially like the younger generations. I think they're kind of like picking on like, okay, now they're just like doing too much as well too. But to answer the question, I do think it's changing a little bit for the better, but also the worse as well too. So yeah.
I agree with that. It feels like it's nice because to me it feels like things are being represented more, but also representation. I had a conversation about this earlier. It's like a double-edged sword, right? Or like blade, where it feels like I'm more visible now, but also that once again I'm also more visible to like bigots, right? So makes it more. Yeah, it's very double-sided kind of.
I think it's like, as like the queer audience has only gotten like better, like more loving, bigger, more people in there. More people who want to support, more people who like are actively craving like queer stories on like all levels, like from romance to non-romance to action to whatever, just make representation happen in all areas. People go rabid for this stuff, and there's more of them than ever. There is also, because of the political climate now, way more real danger, right? Like, I think this whole stuff where you're like, if your game lands on this list where it's like, oh my god, this game is woke. Yes, it's marketing. Also, there is Twitter accounts that will actually make sure that everybody knows where you are, and people might send mail, right? Like, that's I think the real issue is, like, from a community perspective, your games will have a big audience. Like, people want them. And that's like an unequivocal thing. Like, people want queer games. But it is become more dangerous to make them, and that's the whole reason why all of these lists exist, to make sure that you're scared to not make them, basically.
To give a little spotlight for projects that maybe queer projects, maybe games that are attractive for the queer audience. Are there any current developments, projects that you're excited about that you want to give a shout out?
I can immediately go. I was thinking about this earlier again. There is a game by Sunset Visitor, like a theater troupe from Canada, if I remember correctly. They are making Prove You're Human right now, which is a super cool game where the main mechanic is solving CAPTCHAs. And it is their previous game, 1000 Times Resist, is absolutely amazing as well. It's gonna be incredible. And there's also like a super colorful team, so highly recommend.
Amazing. I have to say, so I recently spent a lot of time playing Tomodachi Life, which, of course, that's not like a small indie production or anything, but I was really pleasantly surprised, especially compared to like its previous iteration, like how inclusive it is. And it's not perfect, but especially for like a piece of media that's so mainstream, I felt very like happy to see all the options that I got with that. It was very nice.
There's a practicing artist by the name of Danielle who did the Black Trans Archives, but they also did like a performance with the Maze as well too that just passed as well. Their work is like really like in your face as well too. And I think every time that I think of like this kind of like intersection between like activism and video games, like they're the first person who always pops up in my mind, because I've never seen somebody put truth to power, at least in the experiences from like a racial one and also like a gender one, the way that they have as well too. So their work is like always like on my mind in terms of like really pushing the envelope of what video games can be for people as well. So yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So everyone has some homework already, which projects to check out. Small indie production, Tomodachi Life, of course. But everything's, all answers are valid. And yeah, so like we've talked about difficult situations, we've talked about dangers, targets on your backs, but still, like we still want to make queer games, right? Like not doing it is not a solution, as Shelley said. So do you have any advice for queer people who want to make games? And Shelley, in the preparation, gave a really lovely answer that I would like to go first.
Make games. Yeah. It's so easy. Like, well, it's really hard actually, but just go make games. Nothing stopping you. Nothing.
I mean, I agree. But also, just for like so many marginalized groups, there's like so many resources. Like we're all here today at Womanize, which is like great. So I feel like if you identify as part of a marginalized group, go attend these like meetings or like conventions and you know, use those resources you have. Also like, for example, like the FemDev entire like organization with the amazing Discord server and everything, like I think is really great. So like find out about your resources and also like use them.
Ask questions. Go out there and just be okay with being embarrassed, not knowing what you know. I think all the doors that ever opened up for me was through just cold emails or just meeting people, asking questions, going out there and just putting my face out there as well too. And then also something that's not measurable, and I wish I could give it all to you, luck. Like being in the right place in the right time in the right moment can change everything about your life. Like I got access to, it was a organization called Black Brown Berlin, and they put the job up there that I applied for that I thought was a narrative job. And then like that's how I got it. So it was like a hub for marginalized people, like you said, that gave access to me to get into these places as well. So I just put luck on y'all, just luck. Yeah.
Can like I want to add to the luck part of it. What you said, go to places, because luck isn't like luck is like you think of it as like the thing that happens once ever, like in a lifetime, but it happens all the time everywhere. And for you to be in the right place at the right time to be lucky, you need to go places. So go places, meet people, talk to people. Like I create your luck is always like it feels so bad because obviously the people who talk about it have the privilege of having gotten lucky. Mm-hmm. And we're all survivorship bias here, but that's still like a fundamental part of getting lucky is you need to be in a place where you can get lucky first, right? So put yourself out there, make games.
I would say just multiply your luck things as much as you can. Like literally, if there's anything to get you as lucky as you can, do it. Come to these events, talk to people, show up. Once again, like just like you said, be there so we can see you, so we can ask these questions. And if you can't be there, log online so we can just see your face or something like that. Yeah.
And to hopefully improve the games industry, as Womanize continues to do, and like Kelly also said in the beginning, like what's stopping you? Nothing. No one can stop you. That's right. I am stopping me. We are stopping ourselves. But once we overcome ourselves, nothing can stop us. And ideally, events like Womanize, no matter how cool they are at some point not needed anymore because we are very diverse and solved all problems. To reach that state of utopia, what change would you like to see in the games industry to like make that happen? What do you think would make our industry healthier, more diverse, better? And I thought it's a very difficult question to Matthias first.
Yeah, I feel like, so what I think is like, this topic has been like brought up today a couple of times where it's like, everybody should really work on their own self-esteem, I think. We had the imposter syndrome thing, everything. It's like, stop. We're in an industry where like, everybody's like, competing with each other. Like that's just the truth of it. And a lot of the time you'll be competing with like a bunch of men who think they're overqualified when they're not. And I think that sometimes we need to channel that kind of confidence. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying you should be more confident and really, really work on your own, self-esteem.
I didn't have a good answer for this. I went on a whole ass tirade about like how as a CEO what you should be doing. I'm not sure if there's any of them here, but I was like make your budget smaller, stop firing all of your talent, like just let them work. Like you're the one that's good with money and they're the one that's good with art. I'm not sure if this is the right audience for that. I think you're all already doing very well being here. Just like call out things when they happen. Like it's not worth sacrificing like your morals and like other people for a little bit more security and money. You'll make it through. It's better to have like your local support speak up if something happens. I think it's going to be like a big effort of everybody to kind of just like move towards the next best thing. And it's always going to be small decisions that you're making everywhere, unless you have decision power. And if you have decision power, then like get on it, get your money, do the thing that you're being paid for. Make sure your company runs well and that it survives into the next years, and that means treating your people well.
I think one thing about it getting better is not only this thing of like being confident with oneself, but people just being honest about like the state of things. Like, you know, like this whole "we are a family" bullshit. Like, you know, no, I don't even talk to my own family like that. And I think it's like weird. I think that's also something good that kind of came out of my job as well too. Like my job is women-led and stuff like that as well. So there were like conversations that came about like sexism and patriarchy and things like that too. But also this intersection between like people from the global South as well too, queer identities as well, racial identities as well too. And one time we went to the woods in Romania, north of it, and we sat all in a circle with our shoes off, and we had to talk about our feelings and stuff like that too. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. But I think also it's like I can't lie to people about the state of things, especially like when we're in them as well too. And my boss came to me one time and she was like, can you just always be honest with me? And I was like, I don't know about that, I want to get paid. And then it's like, but you know, like also the invitation to be self-reflexive about yourself and to make mistakes as her being a leader is something that I was like, oh no, that's actually a good quality when people do those type of things, at least if they extend the invitation to do it as well. And I had to like also go to parts of myself where, you know, like we all participate in oppression and also don't benefit from it as well too, through this kind of like intersectional approach as well. And this whole thing of like me being an American citizen or me being gendered as male when I go into these places, how people would like not speak over me, but they'll speak over like colleagues who they may gender as like female as well too. It's like being honest about those kind of discrepancies in the workplace that you kind of see. I think you also just said it as well too, this whole thing of like calling these things out when you see them as well. Because I mean like they can slip under the radar if we just like, oh, it doesn't affect me, like da-da-da-da, but it kind of affects the whole ethos, so being honest, yeah.
I think in general the biggest changes need to happen in leadership. Like as a leader, your job is basically to not have a job, if that makes any sort of sense. Like if things go well, you're not really doing much of anything. And at the moment that's just completely misunderstood. Like everybody is just out here to try and make like a mark on something and like just like have their fingers in everything. And like your job is to make sure that your team has a good place to work. Your job isn't to be the one that works the most or the one that has the most credit or whatever. And like all of these kinds of things, they all fall together in that when something goes wrong in your team as a leader, it's your job to be like, hey, why did you say that? Stop doing this. Let's figure out how this went wrong. Where's the miscommunication? Where's something we can deconstruct? Like that's the job that you actually need to do. And then after you've helped them resolve it, let them do their work and be like vigilant about this intersectionality and stuff like that. It's like to make sure to have a feeling and see that and like treat your team right.
You already answered my follow-up question actually, because the next question would have been like, what can we who are here today, because as you said, like a lot of changes have to happen in leadership and investment level, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm guessing nobody here has like millions of euros to invest in games. If you do, hi, spread the love. But yeah, what can we as like the community do? We as workers to change? And like you've mentioned it, call misdeeds sounds wrong, but like call bullshit out and like call if somebody is behaving badly or being an asshole to colleagues, call it out. And also I would like to give a shout out to Lavendel's talk that was before the break. Unionize, that's also something we can do right now and absolutely should and can hopefully change. Yeah. Do you want to add something to what can we do right now, we as like who are here? You've already said a lot, but
Be unapologetic.
I had unionize in my list.
sorry.
No, I forgot like half my list. That's fine.
Like, what can we do now that we're here? Like, to make
Yes, like what can we who are, like we've talked about like systemic changes and bigger things, but also something we can start today.
I mean, the people who have power, like, I mean, reach out to those who don't have it as well, too. I mean, like, ask the questions of those who may be in the room. Don't worry about the people. I mean, this isn't a thing in Europe, but it was a whole thing where, you know, like, they worry about what school you went to, where you worked at, and stuff like that. Don't always shoot for these, like, kind of, like, high places for your talent pool as well. Like, that was a whole big thing one time when I worked at Apple. They told us that they weren't hiring black employees because they didn't have the qualifications as well. And I was like, well, you know, like, go to these people, go to these communities and give them what they need. To be honest, anybody can do any job if they're like treated or kind of like nurtured to do the job. So qualifications are like bullshit. Like, you know, like that whole excuse of, well, they don't have the experience, they don't have the qualifications. Well, one day you didn't have the experience or the qualifications to get where you were. So I would say like meet these people and be active about kind of like closing this kind of like wealth equality gap. Don't be passive about it and wait for this kind of like talented, marginalized people to come to you in this like rainbow or something like that. No, like go out there and actually find those folk. Do that through like programs, outreach programs, go in those spaces as well too. But yeah, I would say that be active if you have that power to close the gap. So yeah.
Also, I feel like what's interesting is like, especially when networking is, and I find myself guilty of this as well, but it's like, we all have these like name tags that like almost like put us into categories of like, how important are we? Are we just looking for work, or are we CEOs, or what are we? And it's maybe just start conversations without like trying to find that out beforehand. It's just like talk to people because every conversation can be valuable. Yeah.
Okay. We're actually very good on time. We've breezed through everything. The last thing, like I have one more shout out that I forgot in the beginning because I wanted to introduce you to Malina as well, who's sitting here in the front row. Malina is my colleague at the Foundation for Digital Games Culture. And you are clapping right now because she has helped me organize the panel and put together our lovely expert list. And our last order of business is, of course, to shamelessly advertise yourself. Because like these people are doing important work and we want to support queer work, right, and more diverse work. So starting with Shelley and going through the row, please tell people where they can find you.
I don't know. somewhere in the cellar doing some weird stuff. No, we just founded Witchmate. You can find it under witchmate.art. I forgot to send a QR code that was in the mail somewhere. I overread it, but it's witchmate.art. And we're a studio. We're doing animation work, tech art, character design, storyboarding. If you need some industry veterans making cool stuff for your company, please hire us. Also, we're working on a little Apple Watch Tamagotchi. So if you're into that, it will come out at some point in the far / near future.
Yeah, so as Beck mentioned, our studio is working on Portal to the Cosmobeat, which is very much our passion project. And you can feel very free to wishlist it. And also you can find all of our short form content. It's always at Portal to the Cosmobeat, no spaces or anything, on like most social media platforms. We would love to see you around. We have a Discord as well, so yeah, we'd love to talk.
You can find me in Berkheim playing my Nintendo Switch. No. So the company I work for is Tales. So Tales is the official tagline of it. But also The World of Us is the page where you can find the informational hub. You'll see my face all over it, whether you like it or not. That's their fault, not mine, as well too. My personal stuff is Dr. Petro Rico, which is on like Instagram, but also Rico Norwood is also where all of my published work is under. So it's either Kenneth Rico Norwood or Rico. I have like multiple names and bank accounts and all that type of stuff, just in case something had happened. But you can always find me. It's always like either Rico Norwood or Kenneth Rico Norwood or Dr. Kenneth Rico Norwood, or just switch them all up and find it that way, yeah. But yeah, you'll find me.
And you can of course also find them during Womanize here today. You know their faces, so get them.
Come talk to us.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Once again, thank you to our lovely speakers. Thank you to you for being here, and thank you for Womanize for organizing this amazing event.
Thank you.
Yes, we can absolutely do questions from the audience. Perfect. We have a question. Is the cable long enough? Oh, okay. We have a microphone. 1 second.
Stina, where are you? To all of you, brilliant panel, by the way. I learned so much, and thank you so much for being honest. A lot of people who go on panels never are, you know. They give you this version of themselves, but I could see deep into your souls. So thank you so much. A question for you, though, about your creative process particularly. What do you prioritize, the medium or the message?
Prioritizing the medium or the message? The message. I would prioritize more because the message can go through all these different mediums, but just have different impacts through it. But the core stays the same. The message is like the common denominator in my mind, at least. At least when I read Marshall McLuhan and he was talking about that, that's how I got it from that. But yeah, I would say like I prioritize the message over the medium itself sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose I feel the same way. What you said. Yeah, I think that, I mean, for us especially, I mean, we're working on a story game, so all of our projects always like it always has some kind of message that we're telling, so there's always some kind of something. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Don't know what else to add.
I should prioritize the message. I'm too much of a nerd, so I prioritize the medium. I get stuck in like math formulas and stuff way too deep, and then I just kind of like get lost in that part of it. So I find people who are much better at prioritizing the message to work with me.
Hi everyone. Same. Like we laughed, we cried. It was amazing. I got stuck in when you guys were sharing. Yeah, the idea of luck and building your own luck. Yeah, I know it's cliche, but it is very true. And at some point it got me wonder, can you guys share ways that you MacGyvered yourselves into making luck happen in situations that maybe you wouldn't see? Because I think a lot of people think that making your own luck and showing up is showing up in big things or ticketed things or things that are like very outside of scope. But I'm sure, I know that from my experience, and I'm sure you all had that you know, sometimes you showed up in a very unexpected place. So if anything like that comes to your minds.
There is like I've heard, I don't know where this is from or where I've heard it from, but it's that thing of like being in luck is like being lucky is a mix of preparation and time, right? So like it will always take time to get to a point where you have the chance to be lucky, but you also need to be prepared for it. So like the way I, as you said, MacGyver through it is like I just learn all the time. Like I sit there and like whenever there's like a cool new tech piece that has come out, like this AI is like the current big topic. I've written LLMs. The moment that stuff hit the stage, I was like, okay, I need to get into this. This is cool. I need to research it. I still read like a paper every week on something that has come out there, and that's the kind of thing that made me prepared to then take it on when something came around. Right. So I had a job in the film industry where that was kind of like completely out of left field because I've been doing VR work before, and then somebody came around and was like, hey, we're looking for a tooling developer for a VFX company. And I was like, that's the point where I got lucky, is they talked to me for some fucking reason. And I at that point had already researched how to write tools. I had written tools for other things because I'm like, oh, this is a thing that's interesting. Right, and I was like prepared to just like talk about all the things that I had already learned, and that was then enough for them to give me a second chance, and then I put the work in, right? So it's just like the being prepared part, I think, is the thing that I would add on top of that, where you just learn as much as you can in as many areas as you can, as many things that interest you. So the moment that something comes around, you're like, somewhere there in the back of my head, I found it, and then you go, and then afterwards you just have to you run, take it and run.
I feel like what I can say is like sometimes be annoying, I think. So it's funny, like for us, we were lucky to receive the Press Start founding grant, but for example, for us, when we were uploading our pitch deck, there were some technical issues, and we couldn't upload it in time. And I was calling, the next day I was writing emails to the head of game. I was like, please look at it, please, right now. I was sending so many emails, because I feel like once you really like accept or like, you know, convince yourself, I am entitled to this luck. Maybe sometimes you're not, but I felt like I was. So I was really doing everything to get that, and you know, a lot of the time that kind of ends like with, you know, being in an uncomfortable situation. Like sometimes when we're doing like, I don't know, financial stuff or like working with like the Bundesförderung, and it's like, okay, we have to find out right now, so let's just call them right now, and like really, that's uncomfortable for us, but we have to do it right now. So yeah, feels like sometimes be uncomfortable and also be annoying.
I want to say that's a generational divide. Like I'm very old. Like so, literally, like yes. So literally, when I lived in New York, and this is gonna sound very like boomerish, I would go to places and print out my CV and go up to clothing stores and give it to them as well too. But this was like back in like 2000. Don't do that shit now. But like,
but why not?
Maybe do.
I mean, that may actually make you stand out as well too. But the thing of like calling people, I realized that that's like a generational difference. Like y'all don't, the younger generation does not like to call people. Like they don't like to like pick up cold calls.
Genuinely though, I've gone up to companies like there's a VFX studio in Munich called Trickster, and at some point I was just like, I would like to work there, and I just went up to their front desk, and they were like, somebody like one of their concept artists was on break, and I just had a cool chat with him. Nothing ever came of it, but that's one of the places where I could have gotten lucky, right? So it's just fine. Why not go up there, give them your CV as a printout, like.
Pretty much like, yeah,
Do
like
it.
I would say like the luck that happened for me is like I thought my job was a scam when I first was applying for it, and I was like, nobody's gonna pay me to like write like things, like, you know, like nobody cares about that as well too. And then so like when I was saying I was doing the PhD, I got so frustrated with writing about films. I pitched stuff to like there used to be a Twitter page when I used Twitter that would give calls to open calls for like pitches and stuff like that. I pitched to Wired and Tech Radar and got into both of them. And I did like a history on black characters in video games and stuff like that too. And what's a full circle moment that got me hired at my job. But just last year, this past Amaze, black creator reached out to me and told me like, oh, your article inspired me to do my research, and I titled your article based off my research project. And I literally cried. I was like, wow, shit you do actually matters. Like, you know, like things you actually put out there like actually matters. So this whole thing of luck, like it was kind of like the thing of writing, like putting that work out there and somebody read it, or just going up to the office. You never know who's like watching you or who's there, who's going to see your work as well too. And also this, like, don't let nobody play with you about yourself. Like, don't let nobody play with you about like your experience, your intellect, your capability, your history. Like, you know you better than anybody else in the world, and you know you're quite capable of doing. Like, I tell my students this all the time. Like, the only thing that separates you from all these other people is being in the right place in the right time. Meritocracy is a fucking lie. Like, it is a full-fledged lie. But yeah, no, like you kind of like create this luck by like multiplying the probability of it and doing crazy shit like handing your application out or walking up to the place. Well,
I do have to caveat this again very, very heavily, because I absolutely hate it when people who have gotten lucky go up on stage and they're like, this is how I got lucky, do the thing that I did. We are here because we got lucky, right? So us telling you how we did it is very much this is the specific concept of survivorship bias. We only made it here because we got lucky. So what we did might not work for us, might not work for you. It probably won't. Like, I think that's what the definition of luck ends up being. So take everything we're saying with a grain of salt, and just like, I wish you good luck, right? Like, have the tenacity, go out there, do your thing, find your own way. If you have something you're working towards, you might get there or you might not, but it's the journey that counts at the end anyway, right? So all of this talk about luck, I think it's almost always overblown, because like nobody can quantify it. That's not what it's about.
And to go back to what you've said before, and also the title of this panel, the only solution is to be queer and make games.
Yeah.